Hey Booktube, it's Tara, and I am finally getting around to doing my June 2020 wrap up. In this video, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to name the books in order of which I read them for the month of June. So the first book I finished in June was a book called The Invitation, an Epic Holiday by Antoinette. And this book follows Ethic and Alani, the two main characters. They are married, they are in love. It's coming from the series or a novella within the series of Ethic. And in this novella, Alani is pregnant, they're having a baby shower, and we basically get a chance to catch up on the lives of them, their family, Morgan. I believe a character comes back in this novella that we've been waiting for to come back. I'm kind of fuzzy on remembering the details of this book right now, but it was basically just a novella catching up on the lives of Ethic and Alani and all of the ancillary characters that, you know, surround their storyline. So I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Wasn't as good as the Ethic series, but just kind of something to hold us over until Butterfly 2, which is the spin-off series, dropped in June. The second book I read was a nonfiction book called The Body, A Guide for Occupants by Bryson. And I listened to this on Libby. It was basically a well-told, informative guide to our bodies and how they work. It was sciencey, but it wasn't textbook-like, so it didn't bore me. I thought it was good. It was a bit long, however, there's a lot to know about the body, so why wouldn't it be? I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars. Next book that I finished, which I've talked about on 2 prior videos I know, is Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky. And I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I do believe I gave a synopsis of this book on my prior Friday Reads video, but it was excellent. The sequel comes out in October. I'm very excited. It was my first time reading Kwame Mbalia as an author and knocked it out of the park. The next book I finished was a book called The Vanishing Half by Bennett. This book I've also talked about in a prior video. This book follows 2 young, fair-skinned sisters from a small town where everybody in the town is of the same complexion, very, very fair, can pass for white, and how one sister lives her life as a black woman, the other sister decides to live her life passing as a white woman, and the 2 storylines that follow from there. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Would have been a 5-star for me, however, the ending of the book was different, off. I felt like it really did not wrap anything up. It felt weird to me. But the story within itself until the ending was very good, and it definitely had me engaged throughout the entire book. The next book that I finished in June was a book called Untamed by Glennon Doyle. This is a memoir told in short stories or vignettes about Glennon Doyle's life, and basically she is a white woman who discovers, I guess later in her life, that she is a lesbian, and her enlightenment in life at that point thereafter. I found this book to be pretentious. It felt quick just because the stories in the book were so short, but I felt all I was hearing throughout her stories was her enlightenment. And, you know, obviously a memoir is going to talk about the person in itself, but sometimes you can do it in such a way that it comes off as, look how great and enlightened I am, and again, like I said, pretentious, and I really didn't care for that. I did finish the book. There were some stories in here where I felt that she did not focus so much on herself, but focused on bettering herself and her mindset, especially with some of the stories where she talked about racism or oppression of other people, and how her views specifically needed to change, and how she could better educate those around her, including those of us reading the book, to be better people in this world. So I ended up giving this book overall 2 out of 5 stars. I really didn't enjoy it. Next book I finished was a book called Anger is a Gift by Mark Oshiro, and this book follows a young black boy who is gay as he navigates life living in an urban setting where his father has been taken away from him due to police brutality, where the school he goes to is giving more emphasis to protecting the school with law enforcement and with metal detectors than they are with buying brand new books for the students to use in class, or focusing more heavily on the curriculum that they are supposed to be teaching these kids. I wrote in my review of this book that, number one, when it reached the climax of the story, it caused me to feel so much emotion for what was going on. I outright bawled. I put the book down and I cried for probably a good 10 minutes because of what happened. In my review that I wrote on Goodreads, I said, if you did not hate the police before, you will after reading this book. And that's just how I personally feel, just because of what happens in the book per se. I will say some of the other positives, not just because it drew so much emotion out of me specifically, but also the representation in this book. Not only is it diverse race-wise, because you have so many different, backgrounds, black, Hispanic, white. I believe there's an Asian character. You also have a lot of different pronouns and a lot of different, gay, lesbian, non-binary. I can't remember if there was a transgendered person or not, but just the diversity that was represented in this book was phenomenal to see. The story was engaging. It was a tad bit long, but it ended in a way where you could understand the title of Anger being a Gift. Because if you are not angry enough to do something about the injustices that are happening, what will change? So this book easily is a 5 out of 5 stars. I gave it 4 out of 5 on Goodreads for the simple fact that I would not read it again. It was heavy. It was heavy. That's all I can say, and it definitely sticks with me when I think about it. I think, I become emotional thinking about what happened in this book. So it's a 5 out of 5 for me. The last book I finished, I actually finished it on July 1st, but I'm going to count it in June, was Butterfly 2 by Antoinette. This is the spin-off series of Ethic. In the second book, we follow Morgan. She's a young girl. I think I've talked about her before in prior videos, that is making some pretty dumb decisions when it comes to the men in her life and her so-called love life and her friendships and her navigating life, being this young princess of the hood, also being a young mother, and also just being plain out reckless, in my opinion. But Antoinette has a way of writing books that keep you engaged and keep you hooked And even though you end up hating some of the characters and you're thinking, God, can you be any more? Like, the characters get on my nerves sometimes just because of the decisions that they are making, but they carry the story forward and they keep you wanting more, and it keeps me coming back because, of course, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I want to know what happens next. Butterfly 3 drops in December. I'm pretty sure there'll probably be a novella in between because that's what Ashley does. So 5 out of 5 stars for Butterfly 2. And those are all the books that I read in the month of June. So thank you for sticking with me and watching. Please leave a comment on what you read. If you read any of the books that I read for the month of June, let me know what you thought about them. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, thumbs up, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Thanks. Bye.